Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome. Bonsoir, mes amis. The Montreal Canadiens lost game 1 in overtime, but hey, they proved they can hang with the Washington Capitals. I'm here with the loudest of mouths from TikTok, Johnny, a Saskatchewan-based Canadiens fan, much like myself. Although I'm not based there anymore. I grew up in Saskatchewan, for those who don't know. Moose Jaw, until I moved to Fort McMurray when I was 11 with my parents. So, how you feeling, Johnny?
I'm feeling okay. The ending was a dagger, but
Yep.
they look promising.
They did, and I think it was a tough start, right? The first 40 minutes, they were kind of
Mhm.
run physically out of the building a little bit,
Yep.
but I feel like I would like just once to see that kind of game talked about honestly by a broadcast, because
Mhm.
I'm so tired of the like, oh, one team looked small, one team looked small. Let's be honest about what was going on, and that the Washington Capitals were daring the officials to make calls, and they
Yeah.
didn't all game long.
100%.
And that's a style in the playoffs, and that's something the Canadiens are going to have to get used to.
Yep. 100%.
And yeah, it was a tough one to watch. The fact that I think I think there's argument about the Capitals' second goal being a high stick. I think whenever people start posting like screenshots or like still images of something that happens in real time, it can be a little bit misleading. But
No,
I
for
I,
sure.
s- I see the argument on that one, even though I think it was probably not an argument that anybody's gonna win. But
Yeah,
on the game winner, I don't see how you call that icing when a guy gets hit from behind at center ice. I think Patrick Laine did have a good argument there, and
I agree with you.
that's a rough one to try to sit through.
Yeah, but, I mean, we can talk about it all day long, it's still not gonna change the fact, and they just gotta come back better next game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the takeaway from this one is the fact that they were able to come back. Right? They have made the
Mhm.
name for themselves as the comeback kings in the third period throughout this season. And it seems like it's always the same guys, right? And not to say that there aren't contributors throughout the lineup, because I think there was a lot of contributors tonight. But man, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, they've got that ability to hammer that puck home when the going gets tough.
Yeah, that's the core, and that's gonna be the core going into the future for, like, years to come, right? So I think that's
Yeah.
something to just get used to seeing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that like Canadians fans they're at that point now where they've gotten across like the Rubicon of realizing that Nick Suzuki is a star player and he's just going to find himself in these situations over and over again. But
Yeah.
the mass general NHL audience has not gotten there yet. And
No,
I'm excited for that to happen because I think it happens in these playoffs.
I hope you're right, yeah. And if not these playoffs, definitely next year.
Right? And that's the exciting thing about this Canadians team is that this year has found money. You know, and we've been talking about it a lot throughout this season that the whole goal of this year was to be in the mix. And they
Mhm.
went beyond just being in the mix. They are flat out there. And
100%.
now they're against the top team in the Eastern Conference and didn't look out of place overall. You know, like this is a team without a second line center and they're
Yeah.
hanging. That's pretty damn good.
I mean, it makes sense, like, if you're gonna lose, you might as well lose to the team where the guy literally just broke the NHL scoring record. Like, that takes some of the salt out of the wound. Because if we're gonna lose, then we're gonna lose against literally the best guy to ever score goals, and he scored 2 of them. So
Yeah, I mean, that's also another thing for the Canadians. If I were looking at this game going into the next one, I don't know if there's going to be another game where the Capitals get that many breaks, whether it's from the officials or bounces. And I
Mhm.
don't know if Ovi has that many more games like this. I know he's had a great
Yeah.
season, but like I think we all know watching over Ovi over the last like, even 10 years really. He's changed his game to continue to be able to score goals, and that's
Yeah.
like lessened his overall impact, right? Like he's out there to score. He does one thing extraordinarily well, kind of like Patrick Laine, but obviously a bit better. And the rest of his game is not great. Is not great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're going to have very many games where he's this impactful again. And that's something to talk about. Like the fact that this is kind of the Capitals' fastball, and it was barely enough.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like we pushed it to overtime, which awesome. Like fantastic. And I always thought that this was like going to go to game 7. So to see it be this close right off the bat is comforting to me in a way, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I think
Yeah.
I'm with you, because the first 40 minutes, there was definitely the little voice in the back of the head that's like, oh, this might be ugly, if the officiating stays like this, if they can't find a way through. But,
Mhm.
that is one thing that I will give the broadcast is that they did mention going into overtime that the Canadiens bench never looked panicked, even though it may
Yeah.
have looked panicked a few times on the ice. The attitude on the bench was, we've been here before and we can weather this and keep going. And the third period, just they kept their heads down and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And whether it was the Dvorak line or, Jake Evans line out there making things happen, or the Suzuki line actually getting the goals, they found ways to build up that pressure and put the Capitals in unfortunate situations to take advantage of.
100%. Like they didn't look like a team that it was a lot of their first times in the playoffs. They looked like veterans. They were all pretty calm. Slavkovsky looked a little jittery, but
Yep,
overall they seemed like a team that's been there before. And
100%.
going forward, I think that's going to be huge.
And I think that's the craziest thing is I'm not gonna I don't know for a fact that they're the youngest team in NHL history to make the playoffs, but I've seen a bunch of people posting.
Yeah, and they
I
said it at the
haven't checked
beginning
it.
of the game too.
Did they? So the fact that they
Yeah.
look like they've been there before and they're the youngest team, I know they're the youngest team
Mhm.
this year. That's a good combination. Like
100%.
as much as I admire the overall through line from like Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton and Marty St. Louis for this rebuild, I feel like sometimes things like this happen and I'm even underestimating it. Like it's that
Mhm.
um I would try to say like you look at the Seattle Kraken, and when the Seattle Kraken came in, they brought in a lot of really smart people. So people that I really really respect on like the analytical side of the game, but they don't seem to have the organizational structure to best utilize all the people that they have in the organization. And that's where I think Hughes and Gordon have done an extraordinary job. And, partly because the Canadiens are wealthy, right? They're able
Yeah.
to do things that other teams can't. But if you look at the layers of organizational structure that they've built in just a few short years and the payoff that that's made in terms of developing prospects, making players at the NHL level better. Like, I don't know about you, man, but did you expect Josh Anderson to be this good this year or Christian Dvorak?
No, definitely not the more
Right?
like not to
And here
shit
we
on the
are.
guy, but
Yeah. I mean, I crapped on him lots over the last couple of years because
mm,
he was not good. And this year, he's a
yeah.
totally changed player. That line has been money all season long.
And I got to give like props to Montembeau cuz
Oh, yeah.
I've been a pretty big critic of him, and I kind of feel bad about it because he's trying his best, right? But he looked locked in right off the bat. Like he was making good saves. Like not getting lucky, but he was in the right place at the right time when he needed to be.
Yep.
So
100%. I'm just going to do a couple shout outs here in the chat. I see Ramelli's here, Claire Capoletti. Hi, Claire. Piano Matt, Natalie Petty, Adam Dyer, MFM, our good buddy, Trinka, Armad, Gary's here, Terry M, lots of other folks. I am very impressed overall with the way the Canadiens handled this game. I think I look at what happened between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators in game one, and I know the end result is the same. They're both down 1-0 in the series
yeah,
between the Canadiens and the Senators. But the lack of composure that the Senators showed compared to the
yeah,
composure that the Canadiens showed, that's the kind of stuff that I try not to read too much into one game because I like to be as big picture when I talk about this stuff as I possibly can.
no, makes
But
sense.
I've been looking at the comparison of, say, like a Nick Suzuki as a captain versus a Brady Tkachuk as a captain for a couple years now, and I know some people want somebody with like that fire and brimstone and just go out and hurt guys attitude, but you look at how Suzuki maintains his composure and how that filters through the rest of the team versus Kachuk, who's very emotional, hard on his sleeve type player, and how that can get you out of control. I
Yeah.
much prefer the cerebral captain over the fire and brimstone guy.
So I'll take Nick Suzuki over Kachuk every single time.
100%, man. I see that there's some comments in the chat about how many players on this team are left from the 2021 run. Montreal MUFC puts it together, says Suzuki, Caulfield, Anderson, Gallagher, Evans, and Armia are still there from the 2021 team. So 0 defensemen, which is interesting. But also we knew that. And I think all those guys that were named had pretty darn good games overall.
Mm-hmm. Especially Caulfield.
Yes, he looked great from puck drop.
Mm-hmm.
Until he got bowled over
by Ovechkin, but
yeah, behind the play too, right?
Yeah,
they were really stretching the idea of finishing their checks in this one.
Mm-hmm.
There was one play in the first period where Gooley had the puck behind the net and like passed it over into the corner to Hudson, went to the opposite corner, and then got nailed in the corner. Like that was like 3 seconds, man. How are you letting this go? But that's
there was a
hockey,
lifetime
baby.
in between. Yeah, playoff hockey's different, right? But still, some of those probably should have been penalties.
Probably, yeah, I would say so. All right, I do want to talk a little bit about specifically Ivan Demidov and Uri Slafkovsky, because I thought in the first stretch of the game, Slafkovsky looked casual and dug his way out of it and was very engaged the latter half of the game and made some big moves that allowed the Canadiens to come back. But Demidov in this one, and I'm not putting the blame entirely on him because I think his line is interesting to say the least, but he looked not ready today.
I agree with you. I mean, we can chalk that up to, what is this, his third NHL game?
Yes. It's a bit of a tough sell for him. Like it's a big situation to be dropped into.
Like, I know us Habs fans put a lot of pressure on guys, so I'll take that into account for this game, but it definitely needs improvement going forward.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that just comfortability will help him out. Also, I think that head-to-head matchup with Ovi is probably a bigger deal for Demidov
for him.
Yeah, than we think, right? Like, I can't imagine for myself, who was never in any way a gifted athlete, if I had like made the NHL as a 5'7" goalie, and my first game was against Patrick Waugh, I would be intimidated as hell. If it was like my third game,
crazy.
Like in the playoffs too, can you imagine? That's crazy. But yeah, I think that he needs to be a bit more aware of his surroundings, especially in the defensive zone, and the fact that guys are going to hit him when he doesn't have the puck. I think that's the big adjustment that we saw Slafkovsky have to make over the last couple of years, and Demidov's going to have to make it too.
No, 100%. I agree with that.
All right,
very good way to put it.
Let's get some talk in here from one of our partners. We're gonna let you know about Inchu Bijou quickly. We actually have a new ad that I'm in the process of putting together, but it's not ready yet. So you're gonna have to stick with this old ad with me with a much smaller beard for a second here. But Inchu Bijou is an amazing organization here in Montreal, a hidden gem with some of the coolest jewelry and designs that you could ever dream of. Check it out. We are so excited to tell you about our new partner here at Game Over Montreal, a delightfully witchy goth and glam jewelry store making handcrafted art that varies from subtle silver to gold pieces to glamorous bespoke. Inchu Bijou is more than just a company. They've built a community through advocacy and a welcoming attitude that has made them an institution here in Montreal. Located in the historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, Inchu Bijou also runs seasonal themed markets called Maleficarum Market, or Marché Maleficarum en français, where artisans from all over get together and showcase and sell their wares. Drop by 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team, or head to inchubijou.com and enhance your style. The next Maleficarum will be on the weekend of February 8th and 9th. We'll see you there. Now, let's get back to the show. But before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. I am Andrew Berkshire, your host, and I'm here with Johnny from TikTok. And before we get into the top line dominance of the Nick Suzuki line with Cole Caulfield and Uri Slafkovsky, I gotta ask you, man, how scared are you when you see Stephen Harper's Emperor Palpatine face show up over the entire screen in these conservative party ads on dude? The first time I saw it, I was like, what is this?
No, I do not like it.
It's
I wish he was
brutal.
gone forever. Like he had his time in the spotlight. He doesn't need to be here anymore.
Unfortunately for Pierre Poilievre, he apparently does need to be there because talk about looking weak. And I know that people don't tune in here to watch politics, but hey, they're shoving the politics down our throats on the broadcast, so we can talk about it a little bit.
A little bit.
Holy. I mean, even that other conservative ad with the two old dudes on the golf course being like, "Oh, we need some
That's
change."
cringy. I don't like that. I don't like that one at all.
But you can tell who they're talking to, right? Like,
Hmm.
this is something that I've been kind of hitting on that I don't think people realize yet, and that hockey fans are enjoying hockey as much as ever, but younger fans are not tuning in the same way. And that's why you see ads that are all geared for old timers. Like all season long, watching like Habs on TSN, the main advertisement was for Depends. No hate. Some people need that, right? For sure.
No,
And
for
like
sure.
it's
No,
a
not
real
laughing at him
issue.
at all.
But
Yeah.
like if that is your prime time ad on a hockey broadcast, your audience is probably not sustainable. Like
Yeah. You got a target demographic for sure.
exactly. You got to figure out something else a little bit. So something to think about for our friends there broadcasting the games. Maybe figure out something else a little bit better. But how much do you get into like the analytics there, Johnny?
Like for hockey or for
Yeah.
politics? Hockey, not as much as I used to, honestly. I wish I could do more. It's just like getting more responsibilities. I
I hear
wish I
you.
could like break down every single piece of analytics, but I just can't anymore.
You know what? In a much more intense way, I feel the same. I used to spend an egregious amount of time going through every database possible and making big statistical analysis. And now I'm a parent of two kids, so I have to
Yeah,
be productive with my time and do things that matter more. But I do
totally
love,
understandable.
I do love the stats though. And I was looking at this one and I wanted to see how the Suzuki line played and up against who, because like in the playoffs, matchups matter a heck of a lot more. A lot like coaches are much more aggressive in line matching,
Mhm.
and with home ice advantage, the Capitals decided they wanted the Pierre-Luc Dubois, Connor McMichael, and Tom Wilson line out against the Suzuki line. And in that matchup, the Suzuki line outshot them in terms of shot attempts, 21-6, actual shots, 10-5, and in terms of expected goals, they carried 82% of the expected goals while they were head to head.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that is massive. So I am very, very impressed. I am not sure how much better they can be than this,
Mhm.
considering Slafkovsky kind of started the game a little bit slow. And I would say even Suzuki in the first period was fighting the puck a little bit, but
Mhm.
he got over it pretty quick. Caulfield was the
Yeah,
guy
he
who was really
rebounded.
on it.
Yeah.
Like Caulfield was the guy right off the bat caught my eye as, oh, he's in it tonight. So it was not a
Yeah, he was
surprise at all
locked
when he
in.
found the puck.
Mhm. I
Is there
think that's the
anything?
thing, like
Don't go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, going forward, we gotta get guys who aren't Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield to do something, right?
Absolutely, and that's the tough situation that they're in right now. Is that they have three lines that work relatively well with
Mhm.
Dvorak, Gallagher, Anderson, and Evans, Armia, and Heineman behind, but neither of those two lines are big goal scoring lines. And then that other line that they have is it's three pieces that on their own could be parts of other lines, but haven't really
Yeah,
had time to fit together yet.
100%.
So it's one of those situations where you got to kind of wonder if it's worth breaking up one of the good lines to like make four lines that can kind of work, or if you rely on three lines and hope that that quote unquote
Yeah.
second line, which is actually realistically it's the fourth line in terms of
Mhm.
ice time and role. Hope that they figure it out at some point during this series, but they did struggle.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
What's your intuition? What would you do if you were the coach?
I wouldn't wanna do something too radical, but I would just leave it for the next game, and then if something doesn't click, then I would wanna break up the lines. But I don't
Yeah,
know what I would do because like you said, like, they're all good, and we've seen them play good before. We just need to get them in pairings and get them on lines that jumpstart it, you know?
yeah. Got to figure out something to get it going. I do wonder
Mhm.
if I mean we'll talk about more adjustments in the next segment here because I want to dig in a little bit on the top line, but I do think the defense might be the area where they can change things a little bit to get more balance through the lines
Yeah.
because I'm not a huge fan of how this coaching staff handles the defense overall. I think that they eventually get there, but they're faster on the uptake with the forwards than defense, if that makes sense. I think Marty has like a bit of a sixth sense about what works for forwards as a Hall of
Mhm.
Fame forward himself, but they don't really have that same great intuition for the defense.
No, for sure.
All right, so Nick Suzuki ties it up. I am continually pushing the idea that I think he's going to be considered one of the most clutch players of his generation by the end of his
Yeah?
career. I think he is. I think you look at back at these last couple of years where the Canadians didn't play like very many meaningful games, but they kind of found themselves playing meaningful hockey for themselves through like a learning process kind of way,
Mhm.
like even if it's not necessarily getting them anywhere close to the playoffs or like winning any rounds or awards or anything. And throughout this rebuild and even going back to the 2021 playoff run, how many moments, like big moments, has it been Nick Suzuki finding a way to get even? You know, like whether it's causing utter chaos in the offensive zone, like the tying game in this tying goal in this one, or just like finding a great spot, getting open and ripping it. Like I'm in the middle of writing a big series on Nick Suzuki right now for Habs Eyes on the Prize called Big Nick Energy, and
Mhm.
because I gotta do that, gotta make the joke,
I
right?
love the name.
Yeah, I got some pushback on it, but
Nah,
and
it's
I
funny.
understood it, but you know, it's about confidence. It's not about dicks. Let's
E
be real.
exactly. No, for sure.
But you know, I went back and I was like, what's the moment that sold Suzuki for me as like he's the captain of the future? It was like 2 or 3 years ago against the Edmonton Oilers. He gets that it's that same like button hook play that he runs where he goes out of the offensive zone on the power play and like swoops back in, gets the puck at the blue line and like drives for the net and wrists it home. And he
Mhm.
does that. He fires a shot far side low and scores. They review it, gets called offside, goes back, does the exact same play, but shoots short side this time, scores again. And I was like, okay, this is a guy who he could have got derailed. He could have had like frustration. Instead, he's like, I'm going to do the exact same move. And it doesn't matter what they do. I'm just going to find a way. And I
Yeah.
love that attitude that he has. It's like, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter because I'm going to
Mhm.
score.
No, I love that. And with Nick Suzuki, like, I remember when Carey Price saved his life when he, like, put the stick up and the puck deflected. Like, he was a brand new to the like, brand new to the Habs. He played with Vegas, whatever. But he looked like a little kid, and just seeing how much he's grown and, like, like you said, the big Nick energy that he has now. And he keeps the guys calm for the most part, and he keeps his composure, which is huge on everybody else. And yeah, to circle back to like Brady Tkachuk, like that's a much more important thing than him trying to get into scraps or be an instigator. Like I would much rather have a captain that plays like Nick Suzuki than anybody else. I think he's a great choice for the captaincy, like now and going forward for years to come.
100% agree. And as the chat is pointing out right now, it's not like he's without his own little brand of being an agitator, we'll say. Like, you remember when he
Yeah.
did the tap on Carter Hart's head, which, by the way, like sunk Carter Hart's entire career. If you look at the timeline, it's like immediately he fell apart. And like now, of course, he's disgraced because of the whole thing with the
Other
2018.
stuff.
Yes, the
Yeah.
other stuff that we don't want to get killed in the algorithm, but it's disgusting garbage that Hockey Canada should have to pay for. And the multiple slush funds that they had that are built out of like hockey fees for children, which is a tough thing to get around, but hey.
Yeah.
That's
What
the state of the game.
it's the way it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get that better. But yeah, Nick Suzuki has the ability to get guys upset without doing that much. And
Mhm.
he's got like a little bit of Thomas Plekanec in him, right? Where like you don't really see what Plekanec does, and then everybody's like, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Just gets
When you
guys
put it like
agitated.
that makes sense, yeah.
Right? I mean, Plekanec was a bit more dirty. He liked to have the old butt ends in the jaw and stuff like that, but I think the playoffs can bring that out of Nick as well.
Do you think we'll see that going forward?
I don't know about dirt, but with the way that the Caps played this game, I think we're going to see some more liberties being. And we'll talk about that in the next segment as we talk about adjustments that the Canadiens could make going into Washington in game 2 to try to get some better results here, because a loss is a loss in the playoffs. There's no overtime points. They got to figure out a way
Yeah.
to get back into the win column in the next one. So after we tell you about our good friends over at Le Saint Motel in a little advertisement here with our partners, we will get back in and we will talk about some adjustments for next game. The Canadiens need to bring in Arbor Xhekaj. They need to move around some players to shift some responsibilities. We'll talk about that with Johnny in a second. Looking to make awesome memories with your friends? Take some promotional pictures or videos for your business? Check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal's Sud-West borough. It's an amazing selfie studio located in Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, right next to Inchu Bijou. It boasts 12 plus unique decors for you to enjoy and make memories with. Hop into their iconic heart-shaped ball pit, or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. Le Saint Motel can also come to you with mobile decor setups available to rent for events, including setup and takedown, or you can head to lesaintmotel.com right now for more details, or to check out their amazing decors that are always being updated. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out. Welcome back to Game Over Montreal. I am Andrew Berkshire here with our friends in the chat and our friend Johnny joining us from TikTok. He is a political creator mostly, but also likes to joke around and have a lot of fun and clown on some folks who deserve to be clowned on. So I highly suggest you go over and check him out. We will have links to his page in the description for this video on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, it'll be in the podcast description as well. All right. The Canadiens are heading into game 2 down 1-0. They only really need a split in this anyway. But, I mean, realistically, they don't need a split. This series is found money, but it would be great to have one. And I think the Bell Center would be going crazy if they
For
get
sure.
back after winning game 2. But
Yeah.
after this game, I think I would make some adjustments. Before I say what I would do, though, what stuck out to you as something you'd like to see changed in this?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, a lot of because of where I live, I don't get to watch every single game. They're always blacked out, and then, they figure out how to screw with my VPN, and I can't watch the games like that, and
Yep.
then I can't find a stream, but my thing with the Habs has always been they try doing too much. This game, I actually liked how many shots they got. I don't often say
Yes.
that, but they did a lot better with that. But like you said, like, they have one great line, and then, like, in my opinion, like, 3 other lines that aren't quite gelling. So, I would honestly, if I was gonna do something radical, take Suzuki and Caulfield, like, split them up. Just
Oh,
share the
really?
wealth with the other lines. Yeah. Like, you might as well. If we're down, like, 3-0,
Hmm.
might as well.
Yeah, I see. Like if there's like a radical situation, you want to like change
Yeah.
things up a lot. I see a question in the comments here. I think it was Ramelli. Says opinion on Matheson tonight. Pretty bad game overall. I would agree. And
Yeah.
this is kind of, I feel like Mike Matheson is such an interesting character because he gets an inordinate amount of hate and he plays like 27 minutes a night. Clearly the coach loves the guy, and I understand why they like Mike Matheson. His skating skill is astonishing. His cardio must be like league defining. He's able to just, go out there for a 2-minute shift and then get a breakaway and outpace
Yeah.
everybody. It's nuts. And he has the puck skills to be an extremely disruptive defender. Like he's great on the PK, but the way the Canadians rely on him, I think puts him at a disadvantage because he's not a number one guy in terms of skill level, and he just gets too much. And now that they have Lane Hudson, I don't think they need to lean on Matheson as heavily, especially with Gooley looking as good as he does. Now, what I would do, which is a bit radical, and I know they will not do, and I've been pushing this
I
for a
love
little
radical
while.
stuff, so
Yeah. All right. So this is
yeah.
why my shakeup for the Canadians defense. My top pairing would actually be Hudson Struble. Or sorry, it wouldn't be
Okay.
Hudson Struble. Sorry, the top pairing would be Gooley Carrier. Gooley Carrier.
Oh,
That's your top matchup pairing, right? So those guys you can throw out against any line and you can be comfortable. Defensively, offensively, they can get it done. Then you have Hudson Struble behind. That's your like top offense pairing. Struble has shown
mhm.
he can hang with Hudson. And then you have your third pairing. That's where you put Matheson either with Savard if you want to make it like a kind of like what they did with Georges and Gill in 2010, where it's just like you're out there to block shots and get the puck out of the zone.
Yeah.
Like, don't care about producing anything, just survive,
You
right?
guys are walls, yeah.
Exactly. Or you could go Matheson Jackeye, and then you have a guy with like a physical bite along with
Mhm.
Matheson who can push the puck up the ice and create some plays. And also, like, if Matheson sets up Jackeye for a one timer, that could go in sometimes. Like,
No, for sure.
that dude's got a bullet. Now, if you do that, there's like the ego thing that all vets have where like, oh, you're on the third pair now. But like you can throw Matheson out there for extra shifts. He's gonna get power play time, he's gonna get PK time, and you could throw him out there with Hudson if you need a goal, or if you want to push the
Mhm.
offense. I think that's the optimal solution right now for the players that the Canadians have. But I don't think they're gonna
Yeah.
do it. And everyone's really hyper focused on Arbor Xhekaj. What
Mhm.
do you think about Arbor?
I like him. He's got passion, but I like you said, like, sometimes he can get a one-timer that goes in or something like that, but it's not every time, and I
Yeah.
just don't know if he's what the Habs need right now, but that's just my opinion. I like him,
Yeah.
but he is the 7th guy, right? So,
Yeah.
it's hard to be that 7th guy.
Trinka in the chat says Savard didn't look like a liability tonight, and I would agree in part, but there were several times tonight where Savard just looked too slow. Like he was staying within himself very well, and he had some really good blocks, some good pass blocks as well. He's still a great PKer, but I
Mm,
think his foot speed in general in a series against a team as quick as the Capitals are is a detriment. And I do think Xhekaj would help, but I think so many fans want Xhekaj in because of that like physical intimidation skill set. And
mhm.
whenever he feels like that's what he has to do, I think he becomes a worse player.
Yeah,
It has to be like a background aspect of his game, not the forefront of it. And
that makes sense.
I feel like every time the Canadians don't play him, he feels like he has to get noticed. And then when he comes back in, he kind of does something silly. I see some calls in the chat to address 7D, but I don't think that ever works, and it especially won't work if you're gonna have like who are you gonna cut? Because if you're the coach, it's probably gonna be Demidov if you're cutting one of the forwards. And do you want to do that? Just long
No,
term, it's
I
it's not
wouldn't.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we get into like the Caulfield being scratched in game 1 against Toronto talk, you know?
And like, I know, I know what you mean about Savard not looking great the whole time. Like at points, he made it evident, like, yeah, this guy is retiring at the end of the year, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's time to panic yet. Because honestly, from what I saw in this game, if they did, if they just did a little quick tune and did everything that they did this game, I think they can win game 2
Oh yeah.
without doing too much. Just keep the same plan, get 30 plus shots. That helps, but just play smart.
Yeah.
Like we don't got
Uh,
to change the guys yet. Just tighten it up a little bit, you know?
yeah. Gary in the chat says scratching Savard would probably not go over well in the room with him basically saying that he was going to retire before playoffs started. I do think that came out because people were so upset about Xhekaj being scratched down this. In my opinion, I think that was known within the organization, but they decided to put it out in the media to be like, this is why Savard's not coming out of the lineup, guys. Like this is his last run, so they're playing for David Savard. I think in large part this season. I feel like this
Mm.
run is partially for David Savard as a last run, and it's for Galley's mom. You know, like
Yeah.
those are the two big motivators I think that are pushing them right now. There's always like something, right? It's more than just going for the Stanley Cup. You've got to have like that extra thing. Like every team that wins a Stanley Cup has to have an old guy that hasn't won
Yeah.
before. You know, you got to have that emotional. I was going to say baggage, but that's not the right term. Motivator.
Well, it was 2021, right? Like with Price and Paul Byron. Like
Yep.
that was for them. Yeah.
Weber. Yeah.
And Weber, yeah.
Yeah.
Poor
Not to bring
guy.
up the sad memories, but man, when they lost that last game in 2021 and like Weber was out there just like stunned silence, tears in his
Yeah.
eyes. And I'm not a huge Shea Weber guy. Like I respect him, but he was never like a guy that he was never my favorite by any stretch.
Yeah.
But that was hard to watch. Like
Mhm.
to see a guy that tough get like emotionally broken. It
Yeah.
sucks. The playoffs are
I don't
great and
like
they also
seeing that.
suck. All right. Oh man. All right. The other adjustment that I think everyone's gonna be looking at is what to do with Demidov, Line and Newhook. Because that line it's 3 players that are good enough to do the roles that they're being asked to do, but I don't think there's much chemistry between them. There are moments where it seems like Line in particular is like getting something done offensively, but defensively, he's an adventure to say the least.
Yeah.
Demidov's got a way to go defensively in the NHL playoffs, which is not surprising for a 19-year-old. And Newhook, like, he's good, but I'm just always wanting more from him.
Mhm.
And I feel
Makes
like
me
that's
miss Kirby Doc.
2 years ago, Kirby Doc, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for all of them. I feel like none of them are in an ideal situation to produce, but they got to find a way. I wonder if the solution with them is just really push hard in practice. Like make them stick together all the time, make them hang out off the ice. Like, you guys are
Yeah.
best friends now.
Yeah.
Figure out everything together because at least right now, I don't think it's worth breaking up the other lines.
No, definitely not right now.
So like at a certain point, you've got to hope that they figure it out. Like that's because
Yeah.
who are you going to take out? You're not going to switch them out, right? Like they could bring in Kapanen, but you're not going to scratch Newhook, I don't think, and I don't think they'll scratch
I
Line
don't
A
think so.
either.
No. I
Just
think
can't
Lonnie's too
imagine it.
important to scratch, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just that one shot goal ability, even with all of the negative sides of Patrick Laine, there's something special there that nobody else has. And
Yep.
I think having him in the lineup also allows a little bit more freedom to the top line, even
Mhm.
if it hasn't necessarily worked out that way for Line at even strength so far. It does give them something.
Yeah. I think he's
Uh,
important enough to not worth giving up on.
yeah, Adam Dyer suggests giving Demidov playoff Armia. So I saw a couple suggestions saying putting Demidov with Armia and Evans, and then flip Heineman to Newhook and Line. That could work.
I
My
like the idea of Demidov with Armia.
So do I. Like, it gives like some defensive insulation, and I feel like Armia and Evans, their biggest thing is like they create good offensive plays, but they can't finish them. So if they can just
Mhm.
get the puck to Demidov in the offensive zone, maybe it
Yeah.
works, right?
No, for
And
sure.
Heineman adds a little bit of jam to that Newhook and Line situation. I think that's actually a pretty decent suggestion. The only downside I would say is that Evans Armia pairing has not worked as well without Heineman this season. With Heineman, it's been pretty incredible.
Yeah.
All right, let's switch to the overtime segment here and take some questions from the chat. So if you're still here and you have some questions that we haven't answered, put them in the chat for us now, and then we will take some questions. But before we do, just got to tell you all that if you're here and you want to support the Game Over Network, we do have a Patreon that's linked in the description of this video or podcast if you're listening to the audio only, and you can support us there. Every dollar helps us out. We employ over 30 people across Canada, young people who are trying to get their break in the industry, in an industry that doesn't have any jobs anymore. This is the sad truth about the media industry, is that it is falling apart, especially at the local level. This is why you have people on the national broadcast like Kevin Bieksa saying Lane Hudson had 62 points or whatever, or maybe 62 assists. I don't know. I didn't do the research. Dude's making hundreds of thousands of dollars after being a professional hockey player, and he doesn't give a shit. I can tell you right now, everybody at the Game Over Network gives a shit. So
Yeah.
if you want to support a company that's trying to build something for you, that's building content for young people to enjoy the game, to analyze the game with better analysis, with an interactive experience where you're part of the show, support the Game Over Network if you can, and we'll have some fun together. All right, let's take some questions. Also, because Johnny is here, if you guys have politics questions or election questions, drop them in the chat, because like, why not have some fun? Let's get unruly here for a few minutes. All right, Romelli says, do you think Laine's value has risen enough this year to make him part of a trade package for a 2C this summer? Ooh, that's a
Ooh.
spicy one. I have seen a lot of folks talking about the possibility of moving Laine. I think he sticks around for another year because of the effect that he's had this year on the team. What do you think?
I think it's worth seeing out for another year, but yeah, like if you could get something good for him, why not? But also I wanna see what he can do.
Yeah, I want to see a healthy season from him. You know,
Mhm.
I still think the Laine that we saw before the Four Nations face-off is not Patrick Laine. And he's been closer since then. He's had good games and bad games. But you look at how slow he was before then. I do question that second opinion that he got about the knee injury and not getting the surgery. I wonder if it's 100% at times, but it seems like it's getting
Mhm.
better now. It didn't look good earlier in the season, but I'm
Yeah.
very interested to see what he looks like next year, because the guy clearly cares. I think that's the big
Yeah.
like misnomer about Patrick Laine, is because he's like a big lug and he's not very fast. People think that he doesn't care. I think he really does care a lot.
I'm a little too biased to say that I want him traded. I want at least one more year.
Yeah, it's people love their goal scorers, right? And the
Yeah.
guy frankly got it done in very like a very tough situation. You know, like I think he only scored a handful of even strength goals this entire year, but he still managed to hit 20 on a power play that wasn't actually that great. It was like very middling.
Mhm.
he's a pretty impressive guy. Like,
Yeah.
the patented Laine gets the puck and he waits really long to take a shot, and every single time I'm like, he waited too long. Not even gonna get the puck on net. And then he
And
scores.
then it's in. Yeah.
You're like, what? How's that possible? He has a weird wrist shot too. It's like a slingshot almost. Like he has such a long windup, and it looks like
It's
he'd be able to
unorthodox.
block it. Very, very
Yeah.
unorthodox. Kay in the chat says Laine isn't an untouchable by any means, but I don't think his value is where it needs to be. Yeah, in order to trade him, I think that's probably the case as well. Romelli says he just seems so lost when he has the puck. In the defensive zone, I agree.
Yeah.
There was a sequence, I think it was in the first period, where I think it was Gooley got hit from behind and kind of like left the zone. I don't know what he was doing. I thought he was changing, but he must have come back. But Laine had the puck behind the net, and instead of trying to move the puck out, he just kind of sat there for a really long time and let the Capitals come in on the forecheck and bobbled it, and there was a pretty good scoring chance for the Capitals out of it. And I think that kind of stuff is just a little bit too common in his game. It's
he's
like,
not
for
a
lack of
defensive guy.
No, he's not, but it's almost like he's too casual with the puck at times. It reminds me a little bit of Justin Barron. Like, that was the big problem with Justin Barron in Montreal, is like he would have the puck in the defensive zone and believe he had more time than he did. I think Laine has that a little bit too.
Yeah. Needs more urgency for sure.
He does. And maybe that's just something that will take time for the playoffs. So, and Kay says also that she loves Laine. To also make sure that I say that, of course. Outrage says build a hockey line from famous socialist philosophers. Who are we talking about? Oh, are we gonna do that? That's a question. Okay, we can try. What's the best hockey line out of socialist philosophers?
Well, I guess Karl Marx would be your center. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
I mean,
That's just what I think.
just makes sense, right? I mean, Engels has got to be on there.
Trotsky.
Are we building a line or a whole team? I feel like if you're gonna have an enforcer, it'd be Stalin.
Yeah.
It has to be.
As awful as that is, but yes, 100%.
I mean, somebody's got to do dirty stuff, right?
Oh, for sure.
All right. Sammy Haig says we also cut Doc a ton of leeway to recover from his injury, but we have him for Laine. I mean, yeah, I think that's something to continually consider with Laine. This is a recovery year, just like Doc, and we've seen with many players over the years that when you have a catastrophic knee injury, it takes time.
Yeah.
Sammy Haig says there must be some lingering mental hurdle for him. I mean, yeah, in terms of like engagement, I think it was a bigger deal for Doc specifically because he's a very physical player along the boards. So he's always engaged in a way that puts torque on his knees. Whereas Laine is more of a skate in behind the play, get the puck and shoot kind of guy. Like, he's not the most physical, even though he's a giant dude.
Yeah.
I do think Laine particularly could take himself from like a valuable unicorn player with severe defensive liability issues to nobody really talks about his defense if he just also was very dirty.
Yeah.
Like, if he was
Couldn't
out there
hurt.
throwing elbows,
Why not? He's got a
Exactly.
couple inches on most people, so
he's 6'5". Like, he's a huge dude. And when he wants to throw things around, like, he's strong. So come on, Patrick, throw some butt ends or something. Romelli says poor Laine gives one good body check tonight and gets called for a high stick. Yeah, that was, I mean, it was a high stick, but I don't know. They were letting a lot of stuff go that night. The coincidental high stick behind the play, like, you got to control your stick, but it's a tough one.
Yeah. I didn't love the officiating both ways. Like,
no,
but I guess you got to let the refs. It was their first game too. Got to let them get adjusted.
let them get adjusted to playoff hockey. I find that's one of those things where when you talk to former refs who are now in media, it always makes me roll my eyes a little bit because sometimes they add like incredible amounts of context to things and like you understand where they're coming from. And sometimes there's Dave Jackson who works for ESPN. We've had him on the show before, actually. He's a nice dude.
Oh, cool.
But his big thing was always to say that there's not more that gets let go in the playoffs because there's actually more penalty calls per game in the playoffs. And his line is like, and you can tell we're calling it tighter because players cheat less in the playoffs because they don't want to get called. And I was like, Dave, players cheat way more in the playoffs because it matters more. Like, come on, man. Like,
I can see the argument from both ways, honestly.
yeah,
but
I can see the logic, but also like if you watch the sport at all, to say players cheat less in the playoffs is absolute nonsense. All right. Adam Dyer says Anderson got away with 2 bad ones. The trip on who did he trip on the offensive blue line there? That was a pretty bad one. And I know he gave Tom Wilson was a little slew foot after the whistle there as well, which frankly Tom Wilson deserves, but slew foots are not the best.
No, but still, yeah.
But you know what? He had to. I feel like if Anderson didn't step up and do something in this one, people are going to be questioning why he's even in the lineup, right? Even though he had a good game overall. One of the few guys who can play physically. I was also really impressed with Caden Gooley, not just in terms of him standing up on guys and being good defensively, but the amount of hits that he took to make plays tonight and not be like rattled at all by it. Very, very impressive from him in his first ever playoff game.
For sure.
All right. Let's see here. Any more questions? Piano Matt says, I mean, why is Wilson going after Anderson there after the whistle? I mean, because it's the playoffs and they were doing that every single time. We'll be charging into Caulfield. Yeah, people are just like listing the things that they're upset about now, which you got to do it. But listen, the Canadiens played a damn good game overall in a pretty tough situation. It seems like almost everybody on the team, this is their first ever playoff game. Like, that's nuts.
It's crazy.
And they brought it to overtime. So I would say confidence going into next one, and they'll probably play better in the first 40 minutes. That's my guess.
I agree with you. I think they'll learn from this game and go forward.
Awesome. All right. We are going to end it there because, frankly, we got to sleep at some point. Although I'm sure it's a little bit earlier for Johnny out there in Saskatchewan, but out here on the East
Coast.
It's
late for you, yeah.
I've got kids home tomorrow morning, so I got to have some energy there. But we'll be back on Wednesday for Game 2. It's going to be a good one. Canadiens are going to win that one, I think. Head home to the Bell Center, tied 1-1. All right. What would your pump-up song be for the Bell Center pregame video? Coming home, tied 1-1. They've got their montage of the season, getting the Bell Center going crazy. What are you picking?
Me personally, One by Metallica.
Yeah?
Yeah, it'd be Metallica something, at least.
All right, I can't wait to see what they do. I find the ones that they do that are the best, I find they always use the movie scores. Those are the ones that I end up liking. They seem to do a good job editing them. The Canadiens have the best production crew in the NHL in terms of the pregame ceremony stuff, so I'm sure they'll take their time, give us a full half an hour. Celine Dion for the anthems?
That'd be great. I'd like that.
All right, let's do it up. This has been Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. This is Johnny. Follow him on TikTok. He's awesome. And get your Canadian political news and breakdowns and dunks because they deserve it. Let's be real. All right.
Thanks for the plug.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for joining me for this. It's a fun time.
Absolutely.
And we don't have the intro loaded today, so we're just going to stop it normally, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.
Later, guys.